Welcome back to Coffee with Cadro, where we sit down with pioneers, disruptors and visionaries shaping their industries. Today we're speaking with someone who's done all of that and more. Craig Sams, he co-founded the UK's first natural food store that led to Harmony Foods, which later became Whole Earth Foods, one of the most recognised organic brands in the country. And he then went on to revolutionise chocolate by creating Green and Black's, the world's first organic chocolate brand. Craig Sams, welcome to Coffee with Cadro. How do you have your tea and coffee, and what do you think that says about you?
I'm just more of a tea person, and coffee, I react really quite strongly to it. I'm drinking it today,
Sure, yeah,
the first time in 30 years, because I stayed at the CEO of my business, and their cat
kept you up.
woke up. It was like at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was howling, and it's coffee with. So I thought,
So when you do drink tea, what's your choice of tea then?
in the morning, I have a tea called Speedy Breakfast that's made by Henrietta Lovell of the Rare Tea Company, and I make my own dried herbs of nettle, ginkgo, comfrey, and put that in an infuser, and that's my second cup of tea.
Lovely. What was the inspiration behind your first foray into the food business, the food industry? And could you tell us a little bit about that?
I took a year off university in '64. In Iran, they ate an unleavened whole wheat flatbread that actually dealt with dysentery effectively, but I couldn't get that in Pakistan or India, and it came back. I was in Kabul, where you could get that kind of bread with unsweetened tea. It got me right, and eventually I got back to London and went back to university. Some friends of mine were into the macrobiotic diet. There were few people in Philly. The only place you could get the macrobiotic foods was one place in New York, Infinity Foods. So we would take turns going to New York. While I was there, I went to the macrobiotic bookshop that had opened on 7th Avenue, picked out the books I wanted to buy. They wouldn't sell them to me because the FBI had been there that morning and said, you don't sell any books until the American Medical Association has had a look at them. So I couldn't buy a book. In fact, a few days later they came back, took the books away and burned them. So that kind of gave it the stamp of authenticity for me. I also went to a restaurant in the East Village called The Paradox, which was America's first macrobiotic restaurant. I was graduating from the Wharton School, which is at that time a business school. I decided I wanted to open a restaurant like that in London. So I came back to London, and when I graduated, imported the books that had been burned in the States, and started doing brown rice rissoles and falafel at a club called the UFO Club, which is where Pink Floyd first ever played. And it was kind of the place to go on a Friday night. So when I opened a restaurant in February of '67, I had an immediate clientele of the people at the UFO Club, and the Paradox restaurant, a girl called Yoko Ono worked there.
Oh, really?
Nobody knew who she was.
No way.
And then she moved to London with her husband Tony, and she became a regular at our restaurant. And I then got larger premises. I was doing the fashion business as well. I imported I'd seen Afghan coats in Kabul, and so I imported those. Granny Takes a Trip rang me up and said, I hope you got a lot of those coats, Craig, because the Beatles have just walked out wearing them. I had a business partner who dyed silk as well, and my girlfriend made stage gear for Jimi Hendrix. So he wore shirts made out of the silks that me and Aidan Kelly marketed. So I kind of had to make a decision. Am I going to be in the fashion business or the food business? I opted for food.
Yeah.
And then my brother joined me in the business. Gregory.
Tell us a little bit about the creation of Harmony and how did that develop into what we now know as Whole Earth?
People would pay their bill at the restaurant and take home some of the food that they'd been eating that they could eat at home.
Yeah.
And then we opened a shop. Ceres became a destination for people all over the country who wanted that food. And then other wholesalers popped up and we would sell them brown rice by the ton.
Right.
And so
you were the original source.
We were the original
the
source.
wholesalers were coming to you.
Yeah, we were called the brown rice barons.
Right. Was rice the mainstay of the business?
Yeah. We sold everything as Harmony, but then I developed jams sweetened with apple juice. We felt Harmony had built its name on being strictly no sugar, no honey, nothing sweet.
Yeah.
And so it was a kind of bit of deviation.
Yeah.
So we thought about the name Whole Earth. I visited a friend in San Francisco who lived on a house just up from Stuart Brand, who founded the Whole Earth catalog.
Okay.
So I went and spoke to him and said, look, we want to call this brand Whole Earth.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you? He said, great.
I love this.
And so we did it, and
I didn't know that.
Whole Earth was the brand then for the jam.
Yeah.
Then in the late 70s, the jam was selling so well that we turned the peanut butter over to the Whole Earth brand as well.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s, we let go of the Harmony brown rice and beans and all that stuff.
When did you realize that this wasn't just a business, that you'd actually created a movement?
It was a slow process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, once said, all truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently attacked. Third, everybody says, yeah, of course, it's obvious.
So peanut butter, why? And what do you think was the reason that it actually became such a big hit?
The center of the macrobiotic movement was Boston. Michio Kushi inherited the reins from George Osawa. And some of those people came over and they said 2 things. What's wrong with coffee? The other thing was peanut butter. And we felt that was kind of slightly below our sort of standards. And but we launched a peanut butter. It had oil separation, so we said oil separation is natural, just stir it back in. And it really took off. You know, people liked it. You know, we kept it like that until the late 80s, when I found a way of stopping the oil separation without using hydrogenated fat. And that's when Whole Earth shot to the top.
So at this stage, going into the 80s, you created a couple of very successful businesses. You could have probably sat back and maybe thought about retiring or relaxing, but obviously you didn't. You then created Green and Blacks. What gave you the hunger to continue and create such a brand?
My cousin who lives in Albuquerque had gone to Belize in quest of the crystal skull. He knew a lady called Anna Mitchell Hedges, who was the daughter of the model for Indiana Jones. Yeah. And she had given us our blessing to go. And then I was looking for organic peanuts. We got them from Argentina, but they failed an aflatoxin, a test. And I got in touch with somebody in Togo, West Africa. He sent me a sample of peanuts, same problem. I told him, he said, well, the farmers grow cacao as well. Is that any use to you? It's organic. I'd read a book by Michel Montagnac called Dine Out and Lose Weight that explained glycemic index, how different foods affect your blood sugar level. And dark 70% chocolate came in at 22, brown rice was 65, and glucose was 100. So actually, I felt I could live with my conscience doing that. I got a sample of the 70%. I was ready to call it Eco Chalk or Organic Chalk. And my girlfriend at the time, who I had married a few months later, Joe, called it, said, what about green and black? Green because it's organic and black because it's so dark. And so that was the brand. So Whole Earth was still squeaky clean as far as sugar was concerned. And on the first bars, we even had probably a 200-word sugar warning saying, concluding, sugar causes obesity and obesity-related diseases. Keep your sugar consumption as low as possible while enjoying good chocolate by always choosing green and blacks and organic too. And so that's
genius.
That's how we got it off the ground.
To be able to create something that comes from something you're very passionate about doesn't necessarily mean that you can actually run a business. Where did that come from, that schooling and that train of thought to actually run a large conglomerate, if you like?
My first business was delivering the Omaha World Herald. It wasn't like English paper boys, where a newsagent would give you a bunch of newspapers and you'd go and deliver them. I would go to the World Herald printing office, factory. I was given a territory. I would go from door to door saying, do you want a delivery of this newspaper? I would deliver the papers every day, including Sunday morning, and collect the money. So I'd learned about credit control and distribution and marketing and sales when I was 14. I then went to the Wharton School of Business and learned about banking and finance and labor relations and all the stuff you would do to run a big company. Somewhere in the middle, I just developed the natural instinct. And also, we had to make money. It wasn't, we had to strike the right balance between pricing, communication, having the products that people liked, and being in the right location. And, my brother and I both did it.
So at the end of our chats, we normally introduce a quick fire round. Quick
Let's
fire.
go.
Quick fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one would be what would be your desert island food of choice?
It probably would be brown rice. You can live on brown rice. Macrobiotic
and it fills you up.
has the 10-day rice diet is the one that gets your gut and is the one that stabilizes you. And there's no other diet that can do that.
Most overrated food trend?
Anti-carbs and pro-protein. I don't think we need that much protein.
Okay.
Unless you're really engaged in hard work of some kind or the other.
The $1 million question, peanut butter or chocolate, if you had to get rid of one, what would it be?
Probably chocolate.
What's the single achievement you're most proud of?
I think really just getting macrobiotics off the ground, doing that sea change in people's attitude towards whole grains, sourdough bread, healthy eating that now is commonplace.
Right, great. And finally, best piece of advice you've ever had?
Probably just, stay calm, be cool.
Be cool.
Yeah,
be cool. I like that.
Well, it's so easy to get overexcited about things that aren't important.
Yeah, thank you so much.